Well, something's definitely not right. I can't get my hand inside the starter opening. I had a drive shaft built together. I ran all the valves and everything. I know it's been a very long time since I've messed with this Maverick, and believe me, I've been wanting to really, really badly. I just haven't had the time to mess with it. That little cab over has been eating up a lot of my time and work and everything else. Excuses, I know. I think I'm ready to finally put this engine in for the final time. I honestly don't even know where I left off in the last video with this thing. I've got the heads on it. The motor is basically together. I still got to run the valves and put the intake manifold on it, some miscellaneous stuff, but I can basically just get it put in the car. One of the big things I was waiting for in the last video that I didn't have was a torque converter. So I ended up going with a local company here in Phoenix to build me a torque converter. This thing's right around, it's supposed to be right around 3,200 stall. And that's what this camshaft wants, is that stall. And this is about a 10-inch deal. And it's got the multi-bolt pattern on it for the flywheel that I need. I got a new flywheel. And of course the transmission and everything you guys saw in the last video. That's a 4R70W. In case you don't know, and that thing is all brand new, fresh rebuilt, and it's ready to go. Don't want to forget this. Man, I've been chomping at the bit to get this car running. I just haven't had time to screw with it. I already missed a whole bunch of car shows this winter so far, so I'm trying to hurry up and get this thing done before I know it. Summer's going to be here. I mean, this is Thanksgiving weekend, so we do have a long ways to go, but it just seems like the older you get, the faster time goes, so I just always feel like I'm running out of time. What's going on here? This thing is not cooperating, so we're gonna try the old stand it up method. Well, something's definitely not right. Okay guys, I got it. Apparently there's an O-ring in the converter and I was having a hard time getting it past that O-ring, but it's in all the way, so. All right. Trying to see if the converter spins. Okay, good. I'm gonna have to put the studs on the converter and do this over again. All right, now I gotta figure out, since this is a dual bolt pattern, I gotta figure out which one's which. Probably should have done this before I put the flywheel on. Too late now. Okay, I figured out what went where. I got everything marked. Of course, I can't see nothing in there. Come on. Just gonna get a couple threads started on some bell housing bolts so I can get the converter lined up with the flywheel. Because these are studs and they're a pain in the butt. I can't get my hand inside the starter opening to grab the converter to spin it. Okay, there. I think I've got it lined up. Let me put a little tension on these. Yep, we're in. Okay, that looks good. I'm trying to pull the converter into the crank, but I can't, again, I can't get my hand in there to do it, so. All All right, the studs are poking through just enough to get nuts on. I'm gonna have to pull it up slowly with the, pull it forward with the nuts, I guess. Whew, all right, that's a pain in the butt with studs and doing it on the ground. I'd really like to know what my clearance is, but it's so tight in there, I cannot see it. My clearance with the converter all the way in, you know, to the, and how much pull out there is to the flex plate. So I'm trying to figure that out right now before I tighten down the nuts for the torque converter. So I'm gonna mess with that and kind of see where I'm at. Got the motor in it finally for the final time, and the transmission is in it hopefully for the final time. I guess we'll see. So I put the rest of the engine together. I ran all the valves and everything. Everything's done, ready to rock and roll. Intake is on it. Distributor's dropped in it. The cooling system and everything is just basically bolted up. I got a few little things to do, of course. Now, one of the other things I did was I put a Willwood master cylinder on this thing, and one thing led to another, and I ended up replacing every single brake line in the car. I pulled the rear end out of this thing also, pulled it apart, pulled the center section out just to inspect everything, make sure everything was good to go. I rebuilt the rear suspension as well, all new bushings, all that's been done. Another thing I had done was I had a drive shaft built, and I went ahead and upgraded this thing from 1310 U-joints to 1350s. This rear axle is nothing special. It's an open 350 gear, 28 spline axle. The gearing is right for what I need, so I'm just gonna run it. Then I got all the electrical sorted out up here, got a battery mounted, and I had to make all new cables to the starter. I ended up just getting these bus bars and eliminated the original starter solenoid because this thing already has a newer starter in it with the integrated solenoid. And so I just used these bus bars, which worked out pretty well. So now I got everything grounded and powered up properly. And if I need to tap into anything, this makes it really easy. And I had to make some brackets and everything for the transmission cooler mount, but it's all mounted up, ready to go. One of the last big things on the list, electrical, is I've got to get this MSD box wired in. Pretty straightforward, won't be too bad to do it, so I'm working on that. That pretty much gets you caught up to date of what I've been doing with this thing, but we're getting really close to firing this thing up. I did prime the oil system yesterday, so it's making oil pressure, and all the rocker arms and everything, lifters, everything's all pumped up. So we're looking really good there too. Now I know some of you guys really wanted to see a lot of this build and stuff, and I've been trying, but let's face it, I'm in over my head with projects. Between the cab over, I gotta get going on that 57 too. I just need to get this thing done so I can move it. I want to get the 57 frame in the garage, but until I do that, I want to get this car running and driving so I can at least drive it around and move it around the yard and whatnot, and drive it and enjoy it also. Yeah, I've just been working on all the little stuff again. So I ended up getting a 3G alternator for this thing, and went ahead and did the conversion on it in the wiring harness. Got that all plumbed in, that's ready to go. All right, one of the big things again is just electrical. This car was supposed to be extremely simple as far as electrical goes. I wanted to keep this thing as basic as possible, but unfortunately between that transmission and everything, it's created a lot more wiring than I really wanted. All right, so one thing I did not want to do is I did not want to put a heavy load on the original fuse panel of this car. I wanted to isolate everything from the engine and transmission. So what I ended up getting was I got a 7-circuit painless wiring harness fuse block here. Nice little setup. It's just got one relay here that powers the thing on, and it gives you 3 circuits of constant power, and then it gives you 4 circuits of key hot power. But I was just gonna start this thing without having to do all the transmission stuff. I was gonna do the transmission wiring and everything later, but I decided, you know what, I need to do it anyway, so I just decided to go ahead and do that first before I start this thing. So when I bought this transmission, it came with the complete kit of the Quick Shift 4 here from US Shift. So I've been working on the wiring for this thing and trying to figure all this stuff out. This stuff's all new to me. I'm a carburetor guy, so I like to keep things really simple. So this has definitely been a little bit of a learning curve trying to figure all this stuff out, but we're getting through it. All right, so I got the wiring harness and everything plugged into all the sensors underneath on the transmission, so all that's ready to go. That harness comes up from underneath there along the top of the transmission, and then I put in a big grommet here in the firewall, so that harness will run right inside the car there. Then on the carburetor, I've got the, it requires a throttle position sensor, so I've got this thing mounted up on the carburetor. Got this all set up, and then I just got to wire this, pretty simple, just connect all those together. And then all the other wiring for the transmission, key hot, and all that stuff is already coming over here and tapped in. Now inside the car, I got to go ahead and just deal with all of this stuff here. for the most part, pretty simple. All these harnesses here just plug right into the controller. They're just really super long. Okay guys, got everything hooked up. I think we're ready to fire this thing off. I got Jeff here with me to help me with the timing and man, the transmission fluid and all that type of stuff. So, all right, I'm a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie, but I wanna make sure I got going through everything in my head to make sure I've got everything set on this thing. But we should be good. We got oil pressure, we got everything. Nothing else to do but twist the key, I guess. So I guess I'll check the timing real quick. Can you pull the blood stick and just make sure that it's got fluid? And watch the cooler line, because I got the cooler line loose.
You want me to put some in it?
No, I got 2 gallons in it right now. So, but I was hoping it would pull fluid, just cranking it over, but it doesn't seem like it has. It seems like it wants to start, so, but. All right, you ready?
Give us some squirts.
Yeah, let me make sure I got everything plugged back in the way I was supposed to. That's plugged in. I didn't take anything else out, right? Yeah.
Small fuel leak right here.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't see the trans fluid.
Yep. Trans fluid's pouring out, so.
It's pumping.
All right, we got a mess. I left one of the cooler lines loose because I wanted to make sure this thing was pumping fluid.
It's pumping.
Again, this transmission's a complete unknown to me, so I wanted to make sure, but.
So you've got 8 quarts.
I've got 8 quarts in it. It should take that whole thing. Oh, you know what? This is loose. I didn't tighten it. The idle was backed all the way down and it was still seemed like it was.
Yeah, you got a vacuum leak?
Really high. That's what I was wondering if I had a vacuum leak, but I don't.
What about that one busted vacuum port?
No, I plugged it right here. I filled it with silicone because I'm not going to use it.
Okay, so those are all.
Everything was on there unless there's a huge vacuum leak underneath the spacer. I don't know. We ready to fire up again? You got the stick and.
Yeah. Now it needs more idle.
Now it wants it. Is it? Ah, fuck. Cooler line leaking?
Yeah, it looks like a cooler line.
All right.
It's dumping fluid.
It sounds like it's got an air leak. It feels like it's got an air leak.
Vacuum leak something?
Yeah, it's kind of erratic. It's all right, a couple little leaks, but it runs. It seems like it's got a vacuum leak. The idle kind of varies a little bit. It's not real solid, so I got to figure that out. Oh, both cooler lines are leaking. I mean, it can't be these cheap Amazon fittings or nothing, I'm sure. I'm gonna do it one more time, see if that fixed that cooler leak. Can you work that throttle? I don't want to put too much more heat in it without water. All right, well, it runs. Yeah, it just seems like it's bouncing around a little bit. It's not real consistent, so float's got to come up too. They're too low. But all right, well, we got some tuning to do, obviously, and figure out if I got an air leak or not. I don't have any brake parts cleaner to check it, but I'll figure that out later. Well, what do you think, Jeff? Your motor runs.
Got a vacuum leak somewhere.
It's good to hear it run finally. All right, well, we got a few things to do here, so I'm gonna let this thing cool off a little bit and then probably pull that carburetor off and see what's going on with the vacuum leak. And then I can get the cooling system put together on this thing, then run it a little bit longer. So, be back later. All right, guys, it's actually probably about a week or so after that last clip that you saw. Forgive me if I'm dirty, I've been working on my cab over. But we got this thing running, but then I needed to get the cooling system done, so I got that all put in there, and I had a couple issues I had to deal with and whatnot, but I think I got it sorted out. All right, so I got this thing back up in the air. I got it turned around and put it back up in the air, and I got my wheels and tires put on it, and yes, those are the wheels I'm running. So I like the stock steel wheels, and I'm just gonna do a dog dish. I really like that look. It's a good look. I put the cooling system and everything back on. I ended up just putting a flex fan on this thing, and then one of these cheap fan shrouds from Speedway or whatever, and it seems to work really well. And when I had the cooling system all done, I was running the car for a while, and it seemed like the heads were getting really hot, like I had an air pocket or something, and I couldn't get it out. So I ended up, one thing led to another. I ended up ripping out the heater box, and I rebuilt the entire heater box in this thing, put a new heater core in it, painted it. So now I ran all new heater hoses and got all that done. And then in the back of the block back here, I went ahead, or the intake manifold, I should say, I put in some lines here to bleed out the air, you know, to keep from getting hot spots back here in the heads. And got all that plumbed into the water neck. So once I got all that sorted out, I think I've got it cured. I ran it yesterday for a little while, and I think my cooling system is good to go, and I think we're fine now. And then I just had a couple little minor issues running it and whatnot. I thought I had a vacuum leak, but I wasn't. I just had to tweak a couple things on the carburetor, and then I went ahead and locked out the timing on the distributor and got that locked out, got the timing set, so we're good now, because this MSD Digital 6 has a timing or a start retard on it, which makes it really nice. But otherwise, I think I've got everything pretty well sorted. I do want to test the transmission. I still don't have a shifter for this thing. I've been looking for a used one, basically, because I really don't want to spend 400 bucks on one. So I've been trying to find one, see what I can come up with. And I think I found one. I just got to go get it. So anyway, I'm going to fire this thing up real quick, let you guys hear it again. And then I'm going to see if I can crawl into this thing while it's idling and pop it into gear. I've got to get this transmission. I need to know if this transmission even works. I'm hoping it does. It's a brand new rebuilt deal. I just got to get all the fluid running through this thing right now. At idle, it's showing that it's really over full. I'm going to fire this thing up real quick. I know there's no exhaust on it yet, so it is pretty loud. So I don't know how well the camera's going to pick it up, or my mic anyway. Okay. All right, that's a little sketchy crawling under like that. I just wanted to get it and let it go through the gears, a couple of gears anyway, to get it moving. Now I'll put it back in park and then I can check the fluid. Now, in a couple of the older videos, I actually said this was a 330. I thought it was a 330, but it is not. It's actually a 317. I was mistaken by that. So it's got a forged crank, a little stroker crank. It's got Eagle H-beam rods, SRP pistons, total seal rings, Edelbrock Victor Jr. heads on it, and a Victor Jr. intake. And as a comp hydraulic roller cam. The cam is a square pattern cam. It's a 230, 230. 598, 598. So those are the specs on the engine, and that is a 4150 series 750. All right, she's a runner. It sounds really good. The thing's running really, really well. Other than that, I think I've got everything pretty well sorted on this thing. It's running pretty good. Again, just got to get the exhaust on it, so then I can really tune the carburetor and figure out what I need to do with it as well. But all the wiring and everything for the most part is taken care of. Stay tuned for doing the exhaust. I'm gonna tackle that one next. I got to get that done. Sorry I haven't done a whole lot of detail filming on this thing. I've just been wanting to get it done, honestly, and it's just been so much little stuff that it's just, to me, it just wasn't worth it. I didn't think you guys would want to watch it. I'm sure you guys only really want to hear it just run anyway and see it go down the road. Now that it's running, the next thing is just driving it. All right, cool, guys. Stay tuned for the exhaust. That'll be coming up here pretty soon. All right, we're just going to try to get this thing on the road as fast as I can. So, all right, stay tuned for more. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.